And good afternoon. A big welcome to everybody joining us today. My name is Johnny, and today I'm going to take you through the process of creating a Scribe project and turning that Scribe project into a video that you can use. Now, this webinar is great for new users who are just getting started to using the VideoScribe software. Now, throughout this session, I will be joined by my colleague, Beth, and she will be on hand to answer any questions that you have in our chat today. Now, for those who haven't joined this webinar before, this webinar will last around 45 minutes, leaving 15 minutes open for questions at the end. So, in this video, we will be covering adding components to your Scribe, adjusting the camera, adding audio, and creating a video. So I'm just going to move over now as we get started with VideoScribe. So new share. Okay, so in this first section, I'm just going to show you how to create a new Scribe and to add media to that Scribe project. So on this scene, you can see that I have already logged in just using my Sparkle username and password. I'm going to start off by clicking on Create in New Scribe. Okay. So we start off with our blank canvas, and this is our project screen. And today, I'm going to create an educational Scribe about travel. So we're going to add some content to our blank canvas. And to do this, we're going to be using the buttons on the bottom right corner of the screen. So on the bottom right here, we have our Add New Image button, our Add Text button, and we have our Add New Chart button. Now, I'm going to add, first of all, some text by clicking on the text icon here. In this text box, I'm going to write learning, type properly, learning around the world. And a bad day for typing. Right. Now we've got that in, I can just click on the tick box, and that will add some text onto our canvas. Now, what we'll see is that, first of all, as this has been added to the canvas, we have 4 handles that appear around the outside. And we can use this to click and adjust the size of that text. I can also move this text around on the space onto the canvas. So I'm just going to place this at the top here. Now, what makes VideoScribe easy to use is that there's no technical experience required. So once we've added our text, we can just click on the play button at the top, which says play from start. And VideoScribe will draw the letters automatically that's placed on the canvas. Now, by adding text to the canvas, you'll see that we've now added our first element to our timeline at the bottom here. So this space here is where all our elements are going to be lined up. And if I click on this first element, we can see it's now highlighted. And then everything that we add on will display in order on the timeline, with our first element always being at the far left, and then the most recent element being on the right. So I'm now going to add an image to the canvas just by clicking on the Add Image button on the right here. Now, this brings us to our image library. Now, VideoScribe has a vast library that we can select our images from, and this library is constantly being updated. And this means that no drawing experience is required to create an animation video. So what we can do is either browse for the different categories, or we can search for something more specific, as we know what we're actually going to be looking for. So, for instance, I'm going to be looking for a picture of the world. So at the bottom, I can scroll down. I could look in this world library here. But I'm going to look for something more specific. I'm looking for a globe icon. So I'm going to type in the word globe in our search box here. And hit enter. And now we've got many different images that have appeared here. I can narrow down my search though on the left-hand side by using the different filter categories that are available. So we have options for premium images. We've got style, so I can filter it by color or by line art, which is just the outline. These different categories of maps of the world. I'm going to use a picture of the world in color. So I like this first one here. And so I'm going to add this by clicking. Now, this has been added to the canvas. And again, the box appears around the outside and where we've got our image handles, which allows me to resize it so I can make it a little bit smaller here. I can again select the text here either by using the timeline or just clicking on the canvas. Raise this up a bit. Yeah. So by clicking inside the box, it'll allow me to drag this around the canvas. You may also notice that there is a rotation handle, which if I click and hold, I can move this around to adjust the rotation position. But we'll just keep it up right here for now. Okay. Now, looking at our timeline, we can see that the second element has now been added onto the bottom here to the right. Now, we'll see that underneath the thumbnail of our text element, we've got some timings that appear. So on the first element, we've got a timing of 0 seconds. And then to the right, we've got 4.5 seconds. Now, if I play the scribe in its entirety, it's going to include this 4.5 seconds for this element here. And then we've got another 4.5 here. So it's 9 seconds altogether. And so later on, we're going to get to the timing. That's very important when we're creating our scribes. Okay. Now, once we play back, what we will see is that at the end, by default, VideoScribe will zoom out of your canvas to show everything that is on your canvas. So I'm going to play back. We'll have our text, and then we'll move on to draw the globe. And then in the bottom right here, if I pause, you can see it's got this zoom at end option. Oops, let me show you that again. Got zoom at end at the bottom. So by default, it will zoom out to show you everything that's been added onto the canvas. If you don't want that to be there, we can just untick it. And then instead, it will just draw the globe, and then it will finish. Now, playing back, whilst I play back the first elements, I just clicked on play from start here. However, as we add more elements onto the timeline, we will just want to use some shortcuts. So the second play button here is play from current elements, and that can also be accessed just by right-clicking and selecting the play from here option, which also does the same. Okay, now we've added a couple of elements onto the canvas, and they'll draw for us when we play back. Now, what I'm going to show you next is how to create a scene. Now, when you add a new element onto the canvas, VideoScribe will automatically set the camera to focus on the location that you are currently viewing. Now, it places your image and text right in the center of it. So, to put this into practice, I'm going to scroll to a new location. And by moving to a new location, we can either click and hold to move around the canvas. What we can also use are these buttons on the bottom right here. So these allows us to browse up and down, left and right to drag around the canvas. We can use the magnifying glass options to zoom in and zoom out. And a button that is very handy if you have a lot of elements on the screen and you're trying to find something is clicking the Fit to Screen button, which just fits all the elements that you have on the canvas into one screen, and so you can easily browse and search. So I'm going to drag across to a new section over here. It's blank. And what I'm going to do next is set up the first image for this new scene. So what we're going to be doing for this educational scribe is we're going to be learning about Spain. So I'm going to look for a Spanish flag. So I can either scroll through. Again, I could look in the World folder. Now, by default, with most of the menus that you'll see in VideoScribe, it'll have the options on the left-hand side, so all the different browser folders to browse. And then we can also have these small radio buttons on the bottom that we can scroll through one by one, or even using the mouse wheel, you can scroll back and forth. And also just type in Spain, rather than going through each flag, and you can see what the Spanish flag is here. Here we have our first flag. Resizing it, it's I can just have it in the center of the canvas now. I'd like it to draw a little bit quicker. So what I'm going to do is to change the animation time. Now, all in the name, what I can do is change how long it takes for the animation of the hand to draw this flag to complete. So we shall introduce it now to the quick menu. The quick menu, the little blue arrow here, and we've got our first of our 3 stopwatches here at the bottom. And the first one is for animate. What this allows me to do is to either use the plus and minus buttons to increase or decrease the time, or I can click and enter the time value myself. So if I'd like this to take 2 seconds to draw, click on the tick, and I'm going to play from here. Now I can do that. If I've selected the animate time, any element that I now click on will be in the quick menu access for animate time, just making it very quick to do. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some text. And this time I'm going to add "Welcome to Spain." In fact, sorry, what I'm going to show you is how to change some colors. So we've got our default text and fonts, which is just "Welcome to," which is our choice of font here is basic at the moment. I'm just going to choose "Welcome to." I'm going to drag this to the top. Next, I'm going to show you how we can change the color by clicking this block here. We can now select our colors. We've got our color grid that we can choose for. Also, if you know your hex code of a specific color that you're looking for, you can type this in here. This can be particularly helpful if you have any particular company colors that you need to use. And if you're looking to include those, you can just type in the hex value and select. But I'm just going to go for red. And I'm going to choose a different font. At the moment, I've only got a couple of fonts added here. I've got the Arial or Marker to also choose from, but Basic is the default font that VideoScribe comes with. I'm going to choose Arial, but if you would like to add your own fonts, you can click on the Manage Fonts button here, and VideoScribe will allow you to choose from any of the fonts that you currently have installed on your computer. You can then add that to your drop-down list. So let's click on that and see how this looks. Yeah. Now, whilst the basic font by default is capitalized, you will find that other fonts are not. So I'd like to go back into the properties of my text element. So I can either click on the element properties button here, or I can double click and it will take me back. So I can go and edit text, change that to a capital, and we're okay. Okay. Now, for these text elements, instead of changing the animation time, what I'm going to do is to change the pause time. Now, I can do this by clicking on our second stopwatch that we have here. Now, changing the pause time, what this means is that after the animation finishes of drawing that text, it's going to pause and linger on that current position. And we can set how long it's going to linger there for. So at the moment, this is set to 0.5 seconds. If I want to change to 1.5 seconds, for instance, it means it's now going to draw for 1.5 seconds and then pause once it's finished for 1.5 seconds. Okay. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do for this scene is I'm going to add a GIF image to show an explosion that's coming out of the flag. So a nice shiny flag. So I'm going to type the word explode in. Okay, and I'm going to go for this image here. Just so you know that in our folder, we do have GIF images that are moving. Let's see. We have many GIFs online. We can scroll through, but there's a particular image that I would like. So to show you how these types of images work. Now, when I play this back, it's going to have the words of welcome to Spain. And then what we'll have is then this image of lines emerging. We can preview it here. And what I would like to happen is that to play continuously and play back. Okay, so going back to our flag, we'll see how this scene at the moment currently draws. Okay, now we've added all the elements that I want to use in my little scene. So what I'm going to do now is to adjust the camera. First of all, I'm going to select the first element of my scene, and that is the flag, and select that in my timeline. And at the moment, that will just focus with the flag on the center of the screen, as VideoScribe will do by default. Okay. Now I want to change this camera position. So what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm just using the mouse wheel now. Again, you can use the magnifying glasses if need be. Okay. And now with this element selected, I would like to set the camera. So to set the camera, I'm going to click on the small camera icon in our quick menu. And then we have this camera icon with a tick. What that does is set that camera. That is the new position for this particular element. So if I play this back, that's where it's currently set. Zoomed in a little bit. I'm just going to stop that because now I've got that camera position, I would like to set this position for my remaining elements. So we've got our welcome to Spain, and we've got our small GIF image here. So I'd like to set up for my text here, but I want to make sure I'm in the right position. I can see where the current camera position for my text element is by clicking on my camera with the eye. So that's where it's set for welcome to. That's where it's set for the word Spain. And that's where it's set for this small exploding GIF image. Now, I want all of these elements to be set to that one set. Then I can either hold the Control key and I can select one by one each element, or I can hold the Shift key and click, and that will allow me to select a whole group. So the first one being the flag, and the last one being the GIF image, and that will select everything in between. With all these elements now selected, I can click on the camera icon with a tick on the bottom right over here, and this will set the camera to its current position. Now, with that set, let's see how it looks when we play back. Okay, much better. So now set that for this scene, I'm going to go back to the first scene. Just so we can do the same thing. So I've got my first text element selected. I'm just going to set it as a basic scene here. I'm going to select my text, holding Control. I can select the globe as well. And I can now click on the camera icon, and that is going to be the camera position for both of those elements. Let's play back from the start. Okay, now the last stopwatch icon I'm going to show you is the transition time. So we'll notice when it moved from the globe to the flag, there's the amount of time it takes to move from one scene to the next. So let's view the work of the globe's position by clicking on the camera with the eye. And next select the stopwatch with the arrow. Now this is showing me that the transition time, which is the time it's going to take to move from this scene to the next, well, from one element to the next, is going to be 1 second. Just that the flag is in a new position altogether. So if I change this to be, say, 2.5 seconds, after this finishes playing, it should take 2.5 seconds to now move over to the flag. VideoScribe will automatically move the camera across to your new element for you, but you can decide how long that's going to take. And again, timing is going to be key to getting the best out of your scribe. Okay, right then. So in this section, we've really talked over how to search for image library and how to set your scenes. Also a bit of the animation timings. What I'm going to do now is to create another scene where we can add in different types of images. So let's scroll over to a new space on our canvas. And this time I'm going to use an image of a map. I'd like to show where Spain is located on a map. So I'm going to, again, add an image. I could use the world folder at the bottom. So I'm just going to type in Europe. We have lots of different flags and currency even coming up. And let's go through for this one here. Okay. So we have an outline of Europe here. And what I'm going to do is this time I'm going to set the camera straight away. So I just click on my camera icon here and click on my camera with the tick. That is now set. So this one is just an outline image and I'd like it to be a little bit more colorful. So I'm going to go into the properties. I can double click or just click the shortcut here. And I'm going to use this drop down. So by default, full color, as it's just an outline, it's just a black pencil outline around the outside. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the option for silhouette. Now with outline images, this means instead of just having it as a black outline, it now shows as a fill by default, a silhouette option. But you can also change the color of a silhouette. So by clicking on the black, again, you've got your color grid available here with the hex goes at the bottom. I'm going to change this to a shade of green. So it looks a little bit more like land. Click on the tick, and we can see how it's displayed. I'd like to show the location of where Spain is, and due to my great geography, I believe it's around here at the bottom. So I'm going to grab myself an arrow by adding an image. I'm just going to use the arrows folder this time. And in this arrow, I'm going to rotate, and we'll make this a little bit smaller. And I'm going to set the camera position to be the same as my map. So let's view the map's camera position, which is here. And then I can set the arrow to be the same just by clicking on the camera with a tick. So when I play this back, and I can add some text. Right, Spain is in Europe. I'm going to change this to Arial again, shade of red. And then again, I can click on the camera with a tick to set the position. We'll play back this little scene now. Yeah, and then we'll create a new scene by moving across to a new space. This time we're going to try adding a person. So we're going to add a character. I believe the name is Mr. Pedro Sanchez, who is the current Prime Minister. So we can have a fact. So we'll have a scene. This time I'm going to have him set to the left. Set the camera for him here. And this time I'm going to show you the alignment option. So you can set the text to the left here. We have Pedro Sanchez is Prime Minister of Spain. Ooh. So that all to be in the same scene. See how this draws. This is one of the characters available in our famous people, which has the you were leaders, as well as the monarchy included. Speaking of which, what we can do in our next scene is I'm going to show you now how to add some JPEG or PNG images. Now, VideoScribe by default, you'll see in the image library, will use SVG images. Now, these are images that have a layer set on top where the hand will reveal parts of that image, what's called in different strokes. Now, if you have an image such as a JPEG or a PNG that you have just acquired off the internet, by default, VideoScribe will attempt to create a path for it so it looks like it's drawing the image, what's called a reveal stroke. So I'm going to show you this now by importing another image. So instead of using the library, on the bottom left here, we have import SVG, GIFs, BMP, or ZIP. We can add multiple images. So I have a lovely picture of King Philippe VI here. Okay, so when you import a new image, you'll see that the default options you have are to draw, and you also have another animation method, which I will show you in a moment, which is to move in. So as it says, drawing is the standard method of animating text and images, but you will see that the two options we have underneath are to reveal and sketch. If you're using an image with color, the default option you're going to want to use is reveal. We can preview this here. Okay, and VideoScribe will have a pen revealing that image diagonally from top left to bottom right. Now, sketch is an option that you can use if you're using an outline image. So, like the picture of Europe that I have, I've added to the canvas already. It's just got a black pencil outline. And if you're going to use sketch mode, VideoScribe works best using that, where it doesn't have a trace path set for VideoScribe to draw, but it will try and find an outline and will draw that for you. But using sketch is not recommended on these full color pictures. So I'm just going to choose reveal, and I'm going to show you the next animation method, which is to move in. Now, what move in does is allows you to add an image or text onto the canvas, but instead of being drawn, a hand will place it onto the canvas for you. So let's preview this now. Okay, You can choose the angle of the move-in, and you can choose how it moves, and you have different options available here that you can play around with. But I'm just going to choose a smooth move-in here, and we'll have it being placed in from the left. Okay. I'm going to move this to another space. So it's important when you're setting your scenes that if you can see that some of the text is available from the last scene, you want to move it out of the way so it doesn't still show up when you move on to a new scene. So I'm going to place this over here. And again, we can just set the camera. I'm going to take here. So we can see how it draws on the canvas. So not drawn, being placed on by my hand. Which brings us to the next point, which is the hands that we do have available. What I'm going to show you is that if you don't want that hand, as with the drawing, we have this option here, which is the drawing hand. We have a different, many different categories available, different people with an array of hands. For instance, Matt has different colored pens, etc., that you can browse through. You have mere hands, filmer hands, different shades, and also just the pens themselves. But the option that I'm going to go for is no hand, and that way you can just have the image appear like it's being transported onto the canvas. That works well if you're doing things like flowcharts, but it also works very well if you're using images such as transport, like cars or balloons or planes, etc. That works really well. You can use a different method of these throughout your Scribe to make things a little bit more dynamic. So what I'm going to do next is add some text. Spain has a monarchy. If I can spell today, there we go. And then we're going to King Philippe is the king. Really, when you're creating your own scribes, you can create some better facts and also make them a little bit more detailed. But this will do for the moment. I'm then going to add a little crown that I can place on top. So whether it's a JPEG image or a PNG, SVG, what remains the same is that you are placing these pictures on top of each other one by one, and that's how it appears in your timeline. So I'm going to search for a picture of a crown. And we will just have this pop just above his head there. Again, I've got a few elements for the scene here, and I want them to all appear in the same place. So I'm going to select the first image and the last image here, and set the camera again by clicking the camera with the tick. Bring this back, you can see how it draws. Okay, so we've added a different image and tried a new animation type. What I'm going to get to now is the audio, how to add audio to your Scribe project. Now, VideoScribe has a suite of music soundtracks available for you to choose, and we have different genres, music, and tempos. So let's click on the music icon here. Okay, now just like the image library, we'll see that we've got some filter options on the left-hand side, and we've also got the selection of music on the right that we can scroll through, again, using the mouse or using the buttons at the bottom here. What we can see in the information of each track is that we have the name of the track, the length of the track, And what we have here in these four squares is the mood of the track, and that's represented by one of four colors. Now we've also got the preview option here. What I'm going to do is select a track, and I'm just going to turn the volume down here because I'm very aware about using this software that the volume just comes out very loud by default. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit, and we can preview the track. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. Now there's a preview button on each track that we want to choose. So we can, before we select one, we can just preview it. Okay, and again, we can use the bottoms to scroll through. So I'm going to have something that is quite easy. So I'm going to adjust it by calm to heavy. So we can see we've got all the blue ones here. And if we scroll through, it goes 1, 2, 3, depending on the intensity of the track that you're looking for. So I'm just going to use a nice light one. Let's go for this one. You can play this back. Now, back into the music. What we can do is see that the option that I've chosen was quite short. And if you want to extend it, what we can use is the loop track option. So for instance, if I choose picky here, if I said loop track, even though it's 16 seconds long, by default, it will play for that 16 seconds, and then afterwards it will just fade out, and then there'll be no music playing. However, if I select loop track, it will play for that 16 seconds, and then it will repeat until the scribe finishes. So until the last animation has drawn and either zooms out or just ends, depending on how you set it. So I'm just going to select that here. Okay. Let's stop that there. Okay, so we've added some audio. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a voiceover. Now, there are two channels of audio that are available. You have your music soundtrack here, which you can also import your own music if you have an MP3 that you already have to use. And then the second channel is adding your voiceover. Now, again, just like with the music, if you already have a voiceover that you have prepared, that is an MP3 format, you can just click import here and it will add it to your track. Now, the voiceover is one of the most important parts, and whereas you can add different parts to your scribe bit by bit, we suggest if you do have a voiceover already prepared, it is a very good idea to start with that voiceover, because you can then use the different timings by adjusting the timings of your text and your pictures to fit the voiceover. It makes things a lot easier for you. So on this voiceover screen, you've got your drop-down option. I can choose which microphones are available, either through the laptop itself or the headset that I'm wearing. And then this tick box here allows you to watch the scribe as you're recording. You can tick or untick that. So what will happen is I will click on the red button. It will give me a 3-second countdown, and then I can record along to it. So let's have a look now. Ooh, actually, just going to quit that because I just realized I had the webcam selected, which was not the best choice. Let's do it again, and so we can go through the headset just like I said I would do. Round 2. But whilst it's taking its time to fix itself, as I've selected that option for the webcam, which will not work for me. What's important to note is that when you're doing your music and your voiceover, if you're recording a voiceover, you can use different programs, so you don't have to do it from within VideoScribe itself. Some users will use a program such as Audacity or something. If you want to use lots of different takes and then put them into one file as an MP3, then VideoScribe can then use that single MP3 file and then play that back to you. What I'm going to do is to close this here. And let's try that again. I'm just going to start up VideoScribe again. Let me be able to share this experience with you in real time. So let's log on back in, and I will make sure that I am broadcasting to you. There we are, which also highlights one of the features that you may or may not have seen, that in your settings options, and this is our project selection screen, you do have a settings cog, and you can also have a autosave. So this will show how long you can set for it to autosave your projects. It is a good idea to save frequently, as things can occur like you've seen there. But let's get back into our project. And what we're going to go back to is providing a voiceover. So what I'm going to do is, from a drop-down, select my headset. There we are. And clicking the red button will start a countdown timer. It will give me the 3, 2, 1, and then I can begin recording whilst watching the Scribe playback as well. Learning around the world. Welcome to Spain. Spain is in Europe. And we'll stop back there. That'll be enough for now of a beautiful voiceover. So whilst that processes, what you'll be able to do is to play that back. It's mainly to hear how it sounds. One thing to note is that when you're playing it back at this point, it is just for hearing the volume. So you can change the volume here, but it's going to be in sync once it's added onto that project. So we'll click on the tick, and then if we play it back, learning around the world. Welcome to Spain. So, as you may hear, that you may want to get a voiceover that you practice over and over again, and it will sound a lot better when you add it to your project. But either way, it is very easy to do. But you can take multiple takes. You can change the different. You can change the soundtrack to be something that's more fitting depending on what you are doing. But what's most important is that you are going to be setting your timings. For instance, if we go back here. You'll be setting your timings to fit the voiceover, and that's using your stopwatch icons of the animation time, pause time, and the transition time here. That's going to be really important when you're starting and beginning, or if you're putting certain emphasis on certain sentences, you want it to be able to fit. That's how you're going to get the best out of your Scribe, is making sure that each point, when you say it, it lands correctly. So Learning around the world. So, for instance, what I would do in this point is that I would make certain times a bit smaller for when it draws the globe. I'll change the animate time here, change the animate time here, and do things like the text they can write for a little bit longer because you want to then be using the words as it's then writing. So I don't mind that running for too long. And things like the GIF images, you want to keep those quite short. Only if you're going to be explaining a large point, you either want to be talking about a point that is on the screen rather than having to explain everything. So your voiceover is going to be very important. But also note that at the moment we are running low on time. So my colleague Matt has been in the messages. So what we will do now is field some questions that we can answer. So. Okay, so we have a question about importing images and making them draw well. So we do have instant answers about creating your own images. As I noted before, that you do have an image library that has a vast array of images available, and these are SVGs. So they have what's called layers that are stacked on top of them. You have your default image. So for instance, like the picture of Philippe here. Now, if I wanted this image to be drawn, what I would have it do is I would add it. You can use a program, either something like Adobe Illustrator, or you can use Inkscape. Inkscape is a free program that you can use, but you can work with SVGs. We have some tutorials available in our help sites. So if you visit our help site, if you just type in create an SVG, we have a step-by-step guide on how you can use Inkscape to just import an image. And then what you're going to be doing is setting the path for VideoScribe to draw. So a lot of these parts on this image, for instance, are a lot of fills. So you've got a lot of filled in colors. And what you're going to be doing is setting the hand to be able to draw these different parts. So you've got your image as your bottom layer, and then you're going to be stacking layers on top of how you would like VideoScribe to draw it. So if you wanted to draw an outline first, you would set it to draw around the outside and then maybe do a fill. It depends how long you'd want to spend doing it, but the more you set the different paths on that image, the better it's going to look. Again, if you don't have time to do it, then what you can do is just let it do the reveal stroke, which is just a top to bottom reveal, and see how that looks. The next question that we had was asking about adding audio. So for adding voiceover, as I mentioned, that Audacity is, again, it's a free program that a lot of people use. And essentially it's very good to use because you can add audio. Because you can add audio, but you don't have to do it all in one take. So if you want to chop it up, or if you've got a particularly long scribe that you're trying to create, you can just do it in small parts, one at a time, and then condense it into one long MP3 file, and then insert that into VideoScribe. That is one of the best ways to do it because you don't have to get everything right first time. But then you can also play around with your pauses, your breaths. If you want to edit that audio as well, if you want to compress it and make it a little bit fuller, you may want to do that before bringing it into VideoScribe. But yeah, planning is the best thing. And a program like Audacity, which is free, I'd recommend you try. Another question we had was about the transitions in the canvas. Do you just have to move left to right? You do not. So I did this for ease of use, which was, let's move to the last one here. Let's get rid of you, by Philippe. And let's go to this crown here. So you can
transition to any position on the canvas. So if you zoom out, if I mentioned before, this fit to screen will show everything that's on the canvas. And so I've just added scenes moving across to the right. If I wanted to add a new scene, I can go back and scroll up. New scene. I do apologize that my spelling is completely off today, but there we are. New scene. Down here. Then this time, when I play from the last crown element, we'll play back, and then this time we'll move up instead. Not only do you not have to stick to going in one direction, you can also return to a different scene if that's what you like as well. So where I have set this scene here, Spain as a monarchy, if I then want to finish the crown being drawn and then go back to this scene, and then we will add some text here. Let's see. So I'm going to add in some text after this crown. Okay. He does not. Again. Okay. And set the camera position for both of these. If you're using Windows, go to Control, but you can also use Command keys if you're using Mac OS. Again, on our help site, we do have a list of shortcut keys that are available, but things like copy and paste will work as they will do with whilst using document files. So you can use things like Control-C, Control-V to use the copy and paste options, which are at the top here for copy and for paste. But yes, using your shift keys will work the same as using the Mac as well, that you use for copy and paste. But let's set the camera for these and play it back. So if I play it from a crown here, let's delete this scene. Okay, I'm just going to look for another one of the questions that came up. Yes. Okay, one of the queries is looking at going through the viewing the camera for elements and setting them. Okay. Okay. I believe I did just do that, but I will just go through it again. So what I've done in this scene is we've gone from the crown, which is over here, and then gone to adding a new element, which is the he is not and the arrow here. So if we want to make sure that it's in the same camera position, what we can do first of all is make sure we go to that scene. So we can choose the president or that piece of text, view that element's current camera position. And then now we've added this arrow and this piece of text here to make sure it's in the same position as it was previous. We can now just select from a timeline, and select both of them, and click on the camera with the tick. That way we know that it's in the exact same position as we originally had. I'll do it again with the crown. So if I have the camera position with the crown here, and then I'm going to add some text after this arrow. Do the king.
Then we can check if it's in that same camera position. We click on one with a crown. That is the right position. Let's click this element with piece of text here. I know that's in the same position now, and I want to set that camera position. So I'm going to use the camera with the tick. So now we can jump back and forth. We'll play it from the crown. Okay. And those are going to be set to the same position. There's a lot of things that you can play around with the camera, but going back and forth, if you ever get lost again, or if you set to a camera position that you're unsure of, again, you're just going to be selecting from the timeline, clicking that camera button. Camera with the eye will always tell you what your current camera position is for that element. And again, if you ever misplace an element or you're not sure where it's gone, for instance, if I were to have this back to the king element, but then I've gone off somewhere over here, and I set the camera for it. When I play it back, it's going to be a bit weird because it's playing in the wrong place. So what I'll do is I'll select this element. I'm going to fit to screen so I can see all the elements that I have on the canvas and see where it's gone. It's gone over there. So I've got this back to the king element selected. I'm going to zoom in. And I can either zoom in so it's just showing the text, or I can get to the position that I want it to be in. So back to this scene. I can just set that position again. So I'm just going to highlight it, click on the camera with a tick over here, or I can click on this one in the corner here. We'll replay that back. We'll see if it's in the right position again. And now it's set. Okay, with that, I believe we have now come up to the end of the hour. That has gone quite quick. We do hope that you have enjoyed this webinar and found it useful. If there is anything that you feel wasn't covered, or if there are any tips or tricks that you would like us to maybe feature in the next webinar, or if you would just like some help, please feel free to access our help pages. We have tutorials and many instant answers available that will usually solve most of your queries. But if not, please feel free to raise a support ticket and ask us. You can send an email through to hello@sparkle.com. If you have any feedback for this webinar or what you would like to see in a future webinar, or if there are any topics that you would like to see as well. But we hope you have enjoyed yourself and learned a little something. I've also learned I need to learn some more facts about Spain. So anything else that you would like to know, just get in touch. hello@sparkle.com. And we are available in the support pages. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed yourself. And thank you to Bet as well, who's been available on the chat. So we will see you next time. Take care and have a great day.